Welcome to the other side of change, only on the Black Star Network. You know, it is your girl, Brea Baker, here with my brilliant and beautiful co-host, Jamira Burley. And one thing we talk about often on our show is the need for something new, fresh, and urgent in the Democratic Party.
Stagnation is out and people are being fired, deported, and worse. Our elected officials are moving pawns across a chessboard. We need change dramatically. And this week, we're going to be talking about the two men who are trying to do just that within the DNC. That's Malcolm Kenyatta, my former roommate, ironically enough, and David Hogg.
Wait, I did not know y'all were roommates.
So not only were me and Malcolm roommates after college, but we ran against each other for student body president at Temple University. And we both lost because we split the vote.
Of course. Stop. Come on.
Yeah, I've known Malcolm since like junior year of high school. We've had like a subtle competition with each other. But yeah, we were roommates for like 2 years after college, living our best lives in downtown Philly. It was amazing.
I love it so much. And now you're doing all the amazing work that you're doing, and he's trying to transform the DNC from the inside. That makes me actually even more excited to dig into his situation within the Democratic Party because he's doing such important work, but they are trying to stunt and hate on this man. But before we get into Malcolm, let's dive into our latest headlines. Yeah. So not too long ago, Ben & Jerry's co-founder was arrested, and it was not his first time being arrested. He was arrested protesting some bills that were being introduced to further fund Israel, and it's just like people have been on social media just like, yes, Ben, yes, Jerry, like these are two old men who get it, who are putting their bodies on the line in a way that we really, really need in this moment. And I love this article because it showcases the long-standing history of them doing so. And I'm just so proud. I think this is what like Gen Zers and millennials are talking about when it says like we want to spend money with companies that really understand the urgency that we're up against. Like now let me go get some ice cream, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Ben & Jerry's, I support wholeheartedly. They have been consistent, nonstop, where they stand they've always been on the right side of history, pushing and fighting for those who are the most disenfranchised. And I'm honored every time I buy them, but just like seeing the owner not be afraid, the co-founder, not be afraid to your point, put their bodies on the line in the name of justice, I think gives all of us, it makes us all feel like we can do the same thing, right? Whether in big and small ways. And to your point, like how do we continue to double down on companies who are showing that they give a damn, or are showing that they're putting their money and their bodies on the line to ensure that we are creating policies and practices that are protective of people, but that we're also holding elected officials accountable. So yeah, it was so good watching him get arrested and like pulled out of the room, because I'm just like, okay, I can support this. Another thing I can support. So many people don't know the Nottoway plantation fire destroyed the South's largest antebellum mansion, and has sparked a great debate that has started to happen online on whether or not people should be celebrating this, people shouldn't be celebrating this. But there is an entire industry that I think truly disgusts me in ways, are people who get married on plantations. And I don't think I have to explain what the plantation is to you all. I think we understand very well the trauma and the implication that it has had for the African-American community, and the fact that it is being romanticized. So I think for many people who have been frustrated with watching many plantations, not all, being used in this way to placate to white audiences, to use for wedding venues, I think it's justified that many people feel empowered and celebratory towards the fact that this thing has now burned down. I think it was around 53,000 square feet in Louisiana, and it was built in the 1800s, and was formerly for a sugarcane plantation, a cotton, but founded by a sugar baron. But yeah, let it burn, babes. Let it burn. In every way.
Let it burn in every way. And you're hinting at it. You know, there are some plantations that have been repurposed for public memory and public education and reclamation. You know, Whitney Plantation gets a lot of love for doing that, and they are doing that in a great way. But I want to show some love to Historic Stagville, which is in Durham, North Carolina, and they're doing that too. It's Black run. They are also so intentionally co-led with the descendants of those who were enslaved there. There are weeks during the summer where they close the museum down and visitors cannot come because descendants do their family reunions there and are just able to move around the space without, a tourist gaze. And I just love that, making sure that those for whom this is part of their legacy and their family story get to take claim and ownership over it in a big way. And unfortunately, for those that want to be wedding venues, and you go there and all they want to talk about is the landscaping and the fruits and flowers that are grown there, like, more power to the burning. And what was especially cool about the Nottoway burning was that the firefighters were putting the fire out and it kept coming back. Like they left the scene thinking that they'd put out the fire, and then the flames were. So I'm just like, the ancestors are like, no, we burning this stuff to the ground. Absolutely. And you're not going to stand in our way.
Absolutely. And that's why I love seeing all the memes of people like planning cookouts and like roasting marshmallows, because like this is what you've sparked from the ancestors, and they're responding in kind. So we'll see.
Yeah, I hope more of that to come.
Especially in like
another piece of good news. I mean, I don't want to be like toxically celebrating, and I'll get to what I mean when I say that. But Elon Musk is out. Elon Musk is out. Say it with me.
Apparently, he's
out of Doge. Apparently. Now, here's the reason why I say I don't want to be toxically celebrating, because ultimately he did a lot of harm while he was there. A lot of people still don't have jobs, regardless of whether he is no longer officially in that leadership position. A lot of agencies have been gutted, and he mined a lot of our private data. And we have no idea what he is leaving that office with access to still, what he's going to take into his private entities and work that he's doing. And so I don't think that we've seen the last of the threats of an Elon Musk, like we're still, they still got white South Africans claiming that they are genocide refugees who are making their home here. But I'm just really glad that he is not in a formal position within this government anymore. It was a terrifying time, and I just need him to fade away into the darkness. And I think a big reason why he either was pushed out or pushed himself out is because his private entities were really suffering. Good. And I hope that they continue to suffer. Like Tesla, I hope you continue to suffer. What's his space company, SpaceX? Like, I hope you continue to suffer. Unfortunately, X, like, until it goes back to being Twitter, I hope you suffer, because ultimately everything that Elon Musk touches is a tool for his white supremacist agenda. And I want it all. I want his empire to crumble. And I think this is like kind of the beginnings of that, the proof that he was not popular in this position. His desire to make government less, more efficient, was not successful. And I
also wasn't rooted in reality, right? Like, it wasn't rooted in this idea of truly trying to make government efficient for everyone. It was rooted in like, how does he redirect funding from very critical programs within our society, like food stamps, housing, education, to his pockets? Like, how does he grabble up more of federal contracts for himself while leaving the federal government in shambles? The US is on track to spend more this year than they've spent in the first year of any administration in the last decade. That is crazy to me.
And a lot of it on his golfing trips, Trump's golfing trips.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think each golfing, I think they've budgeted around $200 million for his golfing trips that is within the federal budget. Because if you didn't know, anytime the president takes a private vacation, like going golfing, it is expected that they still have to have Secret Service. They still have to feed these people, house these people. And Trump tends to overcharge Secret Service for staying on Trump's properties. It's bananas. Nevertheless, I'm excited for Elon Musk's downfall. I'm always rooting for Elon Musk's downfall, especially because his core audience is the one that he's hurting the most. Democrats and liberals were more likely to support his products because they help the environment than Republicans are. They're not buying Teslas, you idiot. And so, yeah, I'm
You
enjoying.
idiot. I like that.
I'm just enjoying his downfall because, like, one thing that always irks me is when white men insert themselves into spaces and places that they lack the enterprise, the expertise to be able to actually do that work. And like, you're not even from here. Like, get away.
You don't even go here.
And you shouldn't even be here because you overstayed your student visa illegally. So yeah, that's a prime example where laws don't really matter for those who have money. They only matter for poor people and people that they want, and brown people. So just to say. But to wrap up this segment, there is, if you all have been on any form of social media over the last few weeks, you've learned of the internet sensation, Miss Shirley. I hate calling this little girl Miss Shirley. She's 4 years old and she went viral for her dancing to line music and being able to pick up moves very easily. And she's cute, right? She's cute, she's talented, amazing. Over the last few weeks, we've now seen her stardom explode. She's been on daytime TV. She's been on the local news, on the national news. And now her mother has started to host these meet and greets. She's also taken her to adult-centered parties. Like, there's no other children around. So there's clubs, there's bars that her daughter is now being taken to in order to dance. But one thing I want to zero in on is the meet and greets, right? Because other 4-year-olds are not paying to go to the meet and greets. Right? They're not paying to go see her and dance with her. What we're seeing is that grown men are driving hours, paying a fee to be able to take a picture with Miss Shirley, pick her up oftentimes. And I've seen even a handful of, like, at one point she's sitting on somebody's lap that she's not related to. She's being held by someone that she is not related to. Someone kisses her on a cheek she is not related to. And it just gives me the biggest ick in the world. And apparently someone has called CPS on Miss Shirley's mom. And yeah, there's just this discourse of, like, what is too much exposure and what feels like grooming in broad daylight.
Yeah, I think this is really terrifying. Number one, there are so many Netflix documentaries now about the danger. I mean, yeah, in grown men who show up to pageants and other spaces where they expect to see little girls who are being purposely like groomed to act above their age. And I think that, another aspect that was really concerning was I think I saw that Miss Shirley's mom started an OnlyFans for her.
I think the question is it an OnlyFans or does someone create a fan account? I think there's still some gray areas.
Okay. So then I won't put that on her, but I'm just concerned in general because ultimately the appeal of Miss Shirley is, she's doing this dance like she's a grown-up. And now you're asking people to pay to have access to her in real life or content about her. And again, it's not little kids. Like, it's not like she's, Gracie's Corner and the kids are just jumping on YouTube to, like, I love this show. It's like the kind of person who's going to pay for that access is someone with nefarious. So even if you as a mother are not doing it for these, like, evil means, you have to recognize that you're putting your child in a position to be ogled at by those who want that from her. And I think we've just seen all of the like, writing on the wall from child actors who describe, like, being stalked by grownups who watch them. The whole Nick at Night scandal was like, okay, you've got these kids doing these adult jokes. They don't get it, but the creepy adults do.
Also, the Mary-Kate and Ashley, like, there was entire websites dedicated to doing a countdown for when they turned 18. Like, there's so many sick people online, and especially on Miss Shirley. If you go to Miss Shirley's TikTok page, most of the people who follow her are grown men. Most of the people who save her content are grown men because 4-year-olds are not on there. And her mother would have been better situated to focus her target audience on other kids, doing kids parties and all of that. But it's just, the adultification is truly disturbing. Truly disturbing. And it also, what signals are you teaching your child for her not to be able to know that she has the ability to say no? Like, if she doesn't want to hug someone, if she doesn't want someone to pick her up.
She can't because they paid.
She can't because they paid, and her inability to be able to have that bodily autonomy or even to feel like she can say no. Like, I doubt she wants to dance every single day, all day for cameras. Like, take that girl to school. Like,
come on. Put her in some bright pink and sparkly light up shoes, and just, like, let her be a
dance class. Like, if you think she's talented, send her to dance class. But, like, overexposing her on the internet for people to take her images and do whatever is is not going to be helpful for her or for other kids.
This industry being developed around like kid influencers and like family influencers and mommy influencers is so dangerous, because in the name of capitalism, people are saying like, listen, we can make a lot of money off of this, but this is a child, and a child for whom this is not going to go away. The internet is forever. We're not new to the internet. They're not early adopters. This child is Gen Alpha and like should be protected, because we know the dangers. We know that people are going to use AI and do unspeakable things, and don't put your kids in that position. Don't put them in. So on the one hand, I'm like, I don't want people calling CPS on her mother, but at the other hand, I'm like, mom, protect your child. Like, I don't care what check you think you're getting. It's not enough for the positions you're putting her into. But anyway,
absolutely.
When we come back from the break, we are going to dig into the latest with the Democratic National Committee and the Democratic Party as a whole. And we will be right back right after this break, only on Black Star Network.
Black Star Network.
Not a jingle, period.
Attention! We're back, bigger and stronger than ever. Season 2 is reloading May 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
What's up?
Being a black man, we gotta stop letting this slide.
With new hosts.
Let me tell you what damn time it is.
And big celebrity surprises.
Kiss my behind. It's Oprah Winfrey.
Subscribe today at Truth Talks Live.
Give black people what they need, and we'll show them for you.
And don't miss out on all the upcoming viral moments.
Simulcasting weeknights at 8 p.m. on Roland Martin Unfiltered and Black Star Network and Truth Talks Live. I'll see you there.
Welcome back to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network. Before the break, we started to unpack some of the most pressing headlines, and now we're going to dig into the latest news regarding the Democratic National Committee, also known as the DNC.
Yeah, I'm already feeling my blood boiling, because I'm just so annoyed and frustrated with the Democratic senior leadership. I just feel like they are constantly telling young people and Black people and activists and social justice leaders within the party to speak up and voice our concerns and be the change we want to see. But then when we actually do it and are successful and are like bringing in a new wave of energy into the party, they're looking for every loophole possible to insist on it being their way or the highway. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself here. We should probably start at the very beginning of like what this latest internal battle is, but that's just like how I'm coming into this conversation.
No, absolutely. And I think for decades, we've seen the DNC being led mostly by white men and candidates who are almost chosen for the people versus being selected for the people. I can't remember who said it, but she's like, are you a BMW? No. Are you a Black leader, or are you leading Blacks, right? One is chosen by the people versus one is chosen for the people to lead us, oftentimes in a direction that doesn't actually support us. So yeah, this is, it's really up in the air, and it shows that to vote blue, no matter who, has some constraints in it. And it's very an arrogant view, because it's not inclusive of the fact that we have elected officials who are Democrats, who do not share our values, who are not fighting for the same things that we are fighting for. And we have some elected officials that unfortunately are being stifled, right, by the institutional leaders who do not want their radical ideas. And their radical ideas is like free school lunch, radical ideas to circumvent the process of the Democratic Party. So it's quite frustrating.
And it's especially annoying because elected officials are representatives. So them coming in with an agenda and being like, I'm going to force it upon you and tell you what's best for you, as opposed to saying, I'm listening, I'm hearing, this is what my constituents want. It's like politics should be a conversation with the people, where we get to voice our fears, ambitions, desires, and ideas. And people who understand the inside are able to channel all of that information that we've given them, all those insights, and turn it into policy that reflects our needs. But it's like they're choosing the policy, they're choosing the candidates, they're choosing the direction, and then telling us to get on board lest we be in the way. And so now it's like politics is being reduced to this marketing strategy where we're being talked at, we're being sold a product, and we lose in that, because ultimately they don't have the buy-in. So you're trying to convince me of something that I don't want to be convinced of, instead of just saying, I'm a Democrat. This is what other Democrats want. If that doesn't align with me, I might be in the wrong party, and I need to get out of the way so that true Democrats who want to reflect their constituents can move forward.
Oh, absolutely. And that's exactly, and we see some of that happening right now with Malcolm Kenyatta and David Hogg. Malcolm in particular is a dear friend of mine. As I mentioned earlier in the show, that we were former college roommates, and we were also former competitor. We competed against each other for student body president in college. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, we both lost, but that's neither here nor there. The DNC should be lucky to have someone like Malcolm Kenyatta, who has been dedicated to progressive policies and practices his entire political career, but also when he was a college student. That's one of the things that drew us together as friends. And the DNC has now had him as the vice chair, him and David Hogg as vice chairs. Malcolm received, I think, about 298 votes, and David Hogg received 214. You're only required to receive 201 votes in order to claim victory. And David Hogg, for those who don't know, is a former activist, is a current and former gun violence prevention activist. He was one of the students impacted by the Parkland shooting. And I also sat on the board with him for March for Our Lives. So these are two individuals who have shown that they deeply care about the issues that are impacting everyday Americans, particularly those in the Democratic Party. And now they're facing this upward hill battle by the established Democrats who don't like how progressive and how outspoken these two people are.
Yeah. And so to your point, they were both voted in vice chairs, which gives them a lot of insight and power into steering the future of the DNC. And all of a sudden, like a month or two after that vote, there's this procedural issue where they need a revote and a redo. And surprisingly, this really is only going to affect two people who are both under the age of 35, one who's Black and queer, one who's been very openly critical of Democratic stalemates and pushing for electoral politics to match the urgency of grassroots organizers. David Hogg has been not shy about saying that he wants to primary these Democratic incumbents who are standing in the way of progress and allow for young voices to step into the field. I think it's such an important conversation that he's pushing. Malcolm Kenyatta has also been saying similar things about the need for a new face of the Democratic Party. And so just when they're trying to give the party a facelift, all of a sudden we need a recount. Like, what? Who are they? George Bush?
Supreme Court on speed dial, please. We need a decision immediately. It's so fishy. It's so fishy because this is not the first rodeo. Like, this is not the first rodeo we are having a vote like this. And now all of a sudden there's pushback, right? There's a recount that is required. And this is going to create so much division in a party that is already fractured, right? In a party that is already having a huge problem with recruiting and retaining young voters to be a part of the process. So I'm excited for our guest later this morning, who's going to chat with us, who's a brilliant Gen Z organizer, to talk directly with her what she's seeing wrong with the party, what is her make of what's happening with this issue regarding Malcolm and David, but also, what the party can be doing better at and engaging young voters to ensure that we're talking about the issues and advocating for the issues that are really going to change the lives of everyday Americans.
Yeah. So I can't wait. I can't wait to dig into this conversation. We have such a dope organizer and leader and friend and soror skiwi who's going to come up and talk to us about what she makes. I mean, AKA supremacy always. So we're going to bring her up in a little bit so that we can have a deeper conversation about this and just like hear directly from those who are being silenced in moments like these, so that we can understand, like, if the Democratic Party wants the midterms to go the way they need to go, and then once the next presidential election to go the way they need to go, now is not the time to be trying to stifle youth voices. Now is the time to be listening really clearly so we get a better turnout than we got in 2024. So we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. You are watching The Other Side of Change only on Black Star
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Back on the other side of change, only on the Black Star Network. Before the break, we talked about what is currently the fracture that is happening in the Democratic Party. Joining us now is a powerhouse activist, Nupol Kiazolu. She has been on the front lines and have been truly tremendous in her work, and has been one of the individuals who led the protest out of the Charlestonville protest, taping "Do I Look Suspicious" behind her hoodie in the wake of the Trayvon Martin death. Nupol is an award-winning civil rights activist, organizer, and also Miss Liberia USA, and a proud member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. She is led by her spirituality, her enterprise, and her voice in organizing. And she has truly been a voice for Gen Z and led the charge. You have seen her probably on Forbes, CNN, MSNBC, VH1, the New York Times, and so many more. She's a prime example of what happens when you give young people the space to truly make the change that they see. And she's also a Teen Vogue 21 under 21. And hopefully this time next year, she'll be in law school, protecting all of our rights. So welcome to the show. And thank you for taking the time to meet with us as you are in the midst of studying for the LSATs.
Thank you all so much for having me. I'm so excited to speak with y'all today.
We love you.
I love y'all too.
I see you got that pink on today. And someone else.
The pink and the okay. Pink and the, period. Okay, so but we're gonna get into it. Nupol, how did you leverage your passion for politics as an extension of your activism in the first place? And because you did start in activism and then kind of shift into politics, what did you notice about the Democratic Party that got you fired up about changing it from the inside?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I will say, first and foremost, I always tell people that politics and electoral politics is not the end all be all when it comes to fighting for liberation for Black people in this country, but it's definitely a vehicle. And I would say I first realized how important politics was, how important politics are to our community in high school. I was about, let me see, like 17 years old when I held a voter registration drive. And I realized throughout that experience that young people specifically, didn't really understand the importance of local politics and how it directly impacts our communities. Long story short, I remember on the last day, it was the Friday, I'll never forget it, on with our voter registration drive that I organized, and like a plethora of seniors came down to the library, and some of them did have attitudes. They was just like, why we got to do this? We already voted for the president. And when someone said that, an alarm went off in my head, and I was like, wait, hold on. Like, people don't really, again, understand that local politics has a direct impact on our communities and quite literally shapes our everyday lives. And so that's when I was motivated to create a campaign called Vote 2000. And I partnered up with DoSomething.org to focus on young people turning out to vote. And in partnership with them, we were able to get over 100,000 young people registered to vote. And so with that experience, it catapulted me to get even deeper within politics and really try and really work to shift to make politics work for us, because ultimately these politicians and elected officials are in there to do the work of the people. And if you're not doing the work of the people, then you need to get out, period, point blank. And so overall, I would say that experience in high school and just understanding, again, the importance of politics overall and how it affects our lives is what really motivated me to get inside, get into the nitty gritty. And yeah, I went to Hampton University. I got my degree in political science, and now I'm pushing forward to law school.
I love it. I mean, I've been such a fan of yours, watching your process online, but also just like as you continue to grow as an organizer and the people you've pulled in as there to help with their own development, which I think is lacking in the Democratic Party, right? This inability for us to think long term and that future proofing the work. And I'm curious for you, as someone who has worked both inside and outside the system, within the Democratic Party and outside the Democratic Party, what is one of the ways, or what is your perspective on the division that is currently happening, and what the Democratic Party need to do in order to kind of engage young people in a really critical way if we're going to win the next election or the next dozens of elections that's going to happen in the next 2 years?
Yeah, I'm so happy you brought up long-term strategy, Jamira, because I believe that's something that our movement on the left is critically lacking in that department. I believe oftentimes we are so focused on the short term and what's in front of us right now that we forget that, time is going to pass regardless. Like it may seem like 5, 4, 3 years, it may seem like a lot of time, but in actuality, it's really not that much time. And so when I think about like the shortcomings of the Democratic Party and how we just as a collective have not done a good job at strategizing long term. I mean, we've seen the repercussions of that right now. I'll give you an example, right? A lot of people are talking about Project 2025, right? Project 2025 was like one of the biggest topics of the 2024 electoral cycle. But I feel like on the left, like a lot of people was treating Project 2025 as if it just came up in 2024. Been organizing and strategizing since Obama got in office. This is not Project 2025 did not just come out of nowhere. And so that's what I be trying to tell people. Like, yes, we can address the issues that are in front of us. We can organize, we can strategize to work around it and try to find a solution. But also, and one of the biggest priorities in our movement needs to be long-term strategy. I hate to give any type of kudos to the right, but what I will say is that some people in there did have a little 1-2 with the long-term strategy. I'm not going to give them too much. But it's like they did have that on lock, because we're seeing right now all the things that was in Project 2025 come to fruition right now. And so if you want to reach young people, if you want to reach marginalized communities, if you want to reach the working class people, then you actually need to get out in the field and do that. I'm so frustrated with the Democratic Party, because as a young Black organizer, a lot of the people that y'all are talking about right now, these are my peers. Like we came up in the movement together. And I've just seen like how young Black organizers are received versus young white organizers. And in the media, young Black organizers oftentimes are portrayed as villains, and we're villainized. Our characters are assassinated. We're treated like terrorists. I mean, they call during 2020, when the Black Lives Matter movement was at an all-time high. I mean, I fully remember young Black people like myself being referred to as Black identity extremists.
Yep.
That's what they refer to us to. But white people fighting for gun violence when at the height of the gun violence prevention movement was referred to as heroes.
As if we haven't been doing that for decades, right?
Like I'm saying, and then it's just like, I remember speaking at March for Our Lives and just seeing how the police response, even down to like on the groundwork, the police response to over 200,000 people in New York City marching with March for Our Lives versus like 150 to 100 people for marching for a Black Lives Matter protest. Two different responses. They was whooping our asses on the streets, beating us down, arresting us
against cars. And gates.
Yes. But when it came to the March for Our Lives protest and like white organizers putting stuff together, they had all types of protections, and there was no real levels of aggression. And I think that also just translates again to how the Democratic Party treats Black organizers versus white people in the movement, right? And me and my friends be talking about this all the time, like. All a white person got to do is do a cute little 1-2 to a popular dance on social media, turn up to a cute Black song and go viral for it. Then all of a sudden, they're organizers and strategists.
Speak on it. Drop the tape.
I've been here for over 13 years, and this is the person that you're platforming from one viral video. All you have to go viral to be considered an organizer and a strategist, and that's just not what it is.
Yeah,
right?
Even if you looked at who was invited to the last Democratic convention, a lot of those folks have never worked in communities, have just talked about politics from a very generalized way on social media, and then now next thing you know, they're being platformed into space.
Can we curse on here? Just I don't know.
Yeah, you can curse, bro.
Okay, well, yeah. No, that shit is crazy to me. That shit is so crazy as hell to me, because I'm just like, are y'all serious right now? Like, y'all have literally overlooked a plethora, and they do it every single time. They they overlook Black organizers, young Black people, the work that we do all throughout the year. But then when the election cycle comes around, now all of a sudden they want to listen to us, listen in quotation marks. Now all of a sudden they want our labor and our contributions. And it's just like, for me, I'm at the point where it's like, no, we're not doing that. If you don't value what I bring to the table throughout the year, not just when it's time for an election cycle, then it's like, I'm not about to go above and beyond for y'all. I'm going to keep working in my community and doing the work that matters, educating them on what's going on locally. But it's like, I'm not about to bust my ass for a party that does not respect me and what I bring to the table. So until y'all learn, the DNC, how to respect Black organizers and not take advantage of us only when it's time or close to an election, you're going to keep seeing the things that you're seeing, because you're not engaging with people that are closest to the ground. That's one of y'all most critical mistakes. Y'all get social media and real life conflated. Y'all have to understand that people like me that are—
I know we were going to have a sermon today.
Hey, somebody got to say it. Somebody got to say it. And so overall, I'm just saying that y'all have to work with people that are closest to the ground and stop focusing exclusively on numbers on social media or a viral video. Otherwise, you're going to keep seeing the same thing over and over. And we're not going to win the midterms with all the BS going on right now. So y'all need to get it together.
Cory Booker.
Come on now. Listen, that part too, because the performative pandering and pretending to be with us when it's convenient, but not being with us when it's time to vote on something and introduce some bills and co-sponsor something and stand in the way of something is really getting me tight. And I think a lot of what you said is so spot on, Nupol. Like, I think that there are so many elected officials and Democratic senior leaders who treat young activists like yourself like gimmicks, treat the movements and the issues that we are fighting around as they only care about it when it's trending, you know, and we are the ones left holding the short end of the stick when it's like, well, we're still talking about police violence, we're still talking about gun violence, we're still talking about reproductive rights, like we're still talking about economic justice, we're still talking about immigration, like we are holding up the fire and like keeping it lit. And they're just going to come around every, you know, when the media cycle comes around and try and get some good brownie points off of it. And there's such a danger in that because people can see through it. So you're trying to be the party that's anti-Trump. But listen, Trump gets, you know, Democrats get in office and the first thing they say, my hands are tied. There's nothing I can do. You know, there's not a lot I can. Trump gets in office and he does stuff in 3 months that I'm like,
For his first 30 days, first 100 days was crazy.
They are so efficient about getting their agenda through the door. And it proves that Democrats either don't have an agenda or are not actually committed to an agenda, because we get in the door and we fighting for 4 years to get one thing done, and we have no wins. And so it speaks to just this larger trend of when young voices are dismissed by the establishment, they pay the price, but then we get blamed for why those losses happen, because they want to talk about Gen Z turnout. They want to talk about pro-Palestinian activists. They want to talk about where Black men were at. And all of these groups have been showing up for the Democratic Party with very little in return. And so it just frustrates me to see that happen. So you talked about the long game. You talked about how we need to be more proactive instead of reactive. What is the long-term risk in not listening to young people, in making characters out of young Black activists, in not, really strategically bringing young people into the fold? What do we have to lose, especially when you're thinking of like the midterms are around the corner and this next presidential election?
Democracy. That's what's on the line right now. I mean, it's quite simple. And so when you continuously ignore the people that are closest to the issues that you are, quote unquote, advocating for, you're pushing people away. If you're not willing to go to these people and meet them directly where they are and do that work and having those hard conversations, and not just around election cycles. What are you doing throughout the year-round strategy in building community? You cannot just throw a textbook at people about why it's important to vote and expect them to want to do that, right? A lot of the issues that we talk about within the Democratic Party disproportionately affects poor Black people, Black people in the hood, Black people in rural communities that are constantly ignored, that rarely see people knocking on their doors, asking them, what do they need? What are the issues that are impacting them the most? And what can we do to help solve that? Yeah. People are oftentimes in this party only focused on college educated people. And that's a serious issue, because most college educated people with common sense understand what's at stake right now. And they've had the privilege and access to that information to be able to contextualize what's going on. But when we think about access and privilege in regards to folks in the hood and people in rural communities, that looks different. So it's like, we can't approach them with all the academic language and all this inaccessible language that doesn't really translate with folks in real life, not even just like the academic setting. Like we got to stop throwing all these textbook words at people to explain simple issues. That's a part of meeting people where they are. And right now, yes, I love what Bernie Sanders and AOC is doing, going across the country, talking about fight the oligarchy and all that, because that's important. And there is a demographic for that messaging. But when you think about overall, and you think about the educational disparities within this country, I hate to break it to you, but a lot of folks don't know what the oligarchy is. So how can we break that down in terms to help people understand why we need to continuously show up and fight, why rich people are hoarding all of our resources, with leaving us with little to nothing, and we are struggling paycheck to paycheck? How do we help people understand that trans folks are not your enemies? How do we help people understand that Black people, brown people, Latino people are not your enemies? We are not the reason why you can't pay your bills. We are not the reason why you don't got food on your table. The reason why is the 1% and people like Donald Trump enabling them and hoarding our resources and quite literally stealing out of our mouths. That's the reason why you are struggling day to day. So it's like all of this misplaced rage and scapegoating, instead of really just getting to the nitty gritty, explaining it simply to people what's actually going on and how can we engage these communities to show up. Again, I mean, the 2026 is right here. The year is almost over. When the summer is over, the year is over to me. And so with that being said, I mean, we have like 3-4 months this summer to really get on the ground and do some real work to meet people. Because it's just like, we're going to end up in the same situation where we're scrambling a year out from one of the most critical elections, because that's what happened with the 2024 elections. People didn't really start getting into it for real until like the election was a year out. That's an issue. That's an issue because there's 4 years. You had 4 whole years to work with people and engage folks that are closest to the ground, and y'all didn't do a good job at that. So
Yeah, I have to say, I'm really offended that you said the year is over after the summer, as if my birthday month don't matter.
Oh, no shade, no shade.
I'm highly,
Gemini season is over. It's done, Jamira.
highly offended. It's okay. Done. We'll revisit this offline. But I fully agree, right? Like, it's this idea, if you are connecting with your community, your in constituencies every single day, every week, every month, you don't have to wait 30, 90, 120 days out from an election to now get to know your neighbors. Like, you've already formulated that relationship. And how do we make politics more simple? To your point, the oligarchy sounds like an olive oil brand, right? Like, it isn't contextualized for a lot of people, especially in a country where so many Americans are only reading below an 8th grade reading level. Yeah. We are not meeting people where they are. We are not providing the information and the language that enables for us to talk to a wide range of stakeholders, because educated folks, if they're educated, they are more likely going to make the right decision, right? They understand the nuance and the complexities of what's happening. What do you think, now that we are, to your point, a few days out from 2026, according to you, because the rest of the months don't matter. What do you think electoral politics can learn from people like you who have been on the ground, formulating genuine connections and relationships as an organizer, and now hopefully that can be duplicated at a much larger scale in electoral politics?
Yeah. So I will say that I've been blessed with the unique opportunity to talk to people from literally all walks of life. I'm talking about from young children, like educating children on politics and how to show up, to teenagers, to young adults, to older Black people, to white people, old ass white people. I'm talking about old, like literally. And I've been able to even then meet them where they are. Like, I'm just overall, in all seriousness, I've been able to meet people from all walks of life, like all different backgrounds. And what it's shown me is that, yes, we have some differences. Of course, we do have differences, but there is a lot more that we have in common that separates us, especially when it comes to working class people. Yeah. Like, a lot of the issues that we all like go through are interconnected. Like, for example, worrying about how you gonna pay your next bill. I don't think that's something that's exclusive to race. I think that's more so of a class issue. And so that piece as well, being able to, I just think overall, if the DNC understands and prioritizes like class solidarity, that is something that could really dramatically transform the landscape of the Democratic National Party, of the Democratic Party rather. And there's a way to talk about class solidarity where you don't have to bring up all of this academic language. It's just literally as plain as, are you tired of living paycheck to paycheck? Okay, if so, let's talk about how we can fix that. Exactly. Are you tired of worrying about how you're going to pay this high ass light bill? Okay, if so, let's figure out how we can find some common ground and move forward. How can we help serve you? That is honestly, it's as simple as that. But you're not going to be able to do that if you're not, it always goes back to meeting people where they are and connecting with people closest to the ground. Like, it's not rocket science, and folks like to act like you have to go through all this hoopla to do it. And it's not. It's just like, y'all are intentionally, at this point, it's intentional. It's like, it's either you listening to Black people and organizers that have been doing this work for decades, some people years, or you're not. So yeah,
you're choosing not to, deliberately choosing not to.
And at this point, it's disrespectful. So,
and it's always a choice. And I think I'm so glad you said that, Jamira, because we do have to start acting at, like, stop pretending as though any of this is accidental. Y'all been in these positions for decades. You know exactly what you're doing and what you're not doing. You know how to engage, because when it's time to fundraise, you know how to engage someone and make them feel really seen and heard and valued, and make sure that they feel as though what they are giving to the party is a true investment and that they're going to get a return on that investment. And it's time that when we're not bargaining with people for their votes, we're treating it as an investment in the party, and people need a return on their investment. And it's as simple as that. We need to break things down and make it understandable so that the party understands like what we need to do so we can have our long-term gain.
Yeah. I have but I'm gonna let you ask that question.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it might allow you to Okay. Well, let's see. It might be what you were kind of thinking of, but basically, how can young people continue to champion this new face of leadership, even in the face of what feels like a party that doesn't want them to voice their concerns? Are there organizations or entities that you think are doing this in really important ways that young people can get connected to, or are there just strategies that you would suggest folks to use?
Yeah, that ties into what I was going to say. So, I will say, oh man, there's so much going on with the DNC that's taking away from the real work that's going on right now. But I will say shout out to Malcolm Kenyatta, because I've been keeping up with him and all the incredible work that he's been doing on the ground. So shout out to you. And I think it's also important because I'm seeing this trend within the Democratic Party that's very worrisome. And it's a lot of Democrats and people, some folks in leadership are trying to like cozy up, like give diet right-wing takes. And not, they don't want to go too much over the line, but I see where they're going, and I see that they're testing the waters to see how far they can go. That's not going to help us win in 2026. That's not going to help us win in 2028. If you are a Democrat and you have democratic values, you need to stand on that. You need to work in community. Going on talk shows talking about how to get more young men laid is not going to help us. It's not going to help us. How is that? And it's like, I have no
That's some alt-right shit right there.
Like, that is some BS, and that's coming out of leadership within the Democratic Party. So it's like, when you hear stuff like that, I hope you're checking it, because I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. And I know as a Black woman, if I got on national TV talking about how to get more people laid, I would be dragged up and down. But these are the people that are allowed to ascend to high positions of power within the Democratic Party, and then making us look bad, making us look like fools. Like, it's just like, where is the decorum? Where is the couth? Like, it is just ridiculous. But overall, I will say that leaning more right is not going to help us. You need to listen to your constituents, and you need to actively engage young people. And again, not when it's just time for an election cycle, but talking to them, working with them, putting them in positions of power and leadership. Because I mean, a lot of Gen Z right now, I'm 24, I'm about to be 25 next month. Like, we're getting up there in age. So it's not like you're talking to babies that have nothing going on up here. Like, we are people, we are capable, we know what's going on, and you need to trust our leadership. And then on top of that, I will say, in regards to, hold on, I lost my train of thought. I will say that most importantly, in regards to how we are showing up next in the next phase of work within the Democratic Party and young people, I just think that overall, we gotta put the drama to the side, because it's taking away from the work. And we have to figure out a strategic way to move forward. I envision some type of I know a lot of people put together advisory councils and they have no real power, but some type of committee, I would see like something that is consisted of young people that have done the work, that have a credible track record within the Democratic Party to advise on next steps in that, and not just advise, but when we tell y'all what needs to be done, y'all actually put that into play. Because too many times the Democratic Party has reached out to people like me and my other youth peers, and they ask us what they need, what we think should be done. And then when we tell them, we looking around and it's crickets. Like, it's nothing that's happening. And so
there's no resources to implement, right?
There's no resources. Also, that point, fund organizers, fund Black organizers in the work that they're doing on the ground. Like, nothing really moves without money in this country. Although that's a uncomfortable conversation for a lot of people to have. It's just the fact of the matter. If you're not funding people that are doing the work closest to the ground, that's another issue that we see right now. There's a huge funding gap. So overall, there's just so much that I could speak to, but I just think, and most importantly, like, we really need to move past all this drama and start focusing on strategy. Otherwise, I mean, the midterms ain't looking too hot for us right now.
Yeah, I agree. If we lose the midterms,
it's wraps.
What about the next election? Might not be another election. Like, that's their ultimate goal, is that Trump said it himself, like, he doesn't want people to have to vote again for him.
That's scary.
And it should scare and terrify all of us. That being said, that doesn't mean we need to be voting for just any old Democrat, right? Because to your point, many Democrats are testing the waters, thinking that the way to win is to court conservative voters. That didn't
Yeah.
work in 2016, that didn't work in 2020, that's not going to work, that didn't work in 2024. Like, it's not going to work. We should be the research says we should be doubling down on our base and fighting for the issues and concerns that our base has. We should be changing the lives of those in our base. With that being said, I am honored to have had you on this show. We definitely have to bring you back. You have so much gems. I want you to leave us with, what is one thing that brings you hope, and where can people continue to stay connected to you and your work?
One thing that brings me hope is when I'm on the ground, honestly, when I'm on the ground, when I'm interacting with communities and everyday people, and I understand that it's folks out there that still care, because honestly, in the times we're living in, when every time I open up my phone or I turn on the news, there's just so much doom. There's so much doom around us. But when I interact with the people in my everyday communities, like, there is so much hope still, even in the midst of darkness. And I believe that's the power that we have, especially as Black people. Like, we've always been able to find a way and turn lemons into lemonade. And so that's what keeps me going. And how to keep up with me, you can follow me on Instagram at Nupol_Justice. And also shout out to my new organization, CivXP. We are fighting to address the gap in civic education in this country and bring more young folks and people overall together to fight for our democracy. So make sure you find us on Instagram at our CivXP as well. And thank you all so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for being on, Nupol. We love you. We thank you. Now go get into that law school, girl, so you can say this democracy.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
All right, y'all, we are going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and wrap up this episode. But I hope that y'all were writing down notes in your notebooks and just like holding on to everything that was being said, because that conversation really just like fired me up. And we will be back with The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
I always love our guests. We bring on the best folks. Welcome back to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network. We just had a really incredible conversation with Nupol Kiazolu, a brilliant Gen Z organizer who is helping us understand that we've got to play the long game in this democratic work. As always, this conversation is far from over, but we hope that hearing from Nupol and today's discussion helped you to clarify the stakes and the fight ahead.
Absolutely. And if you want to dive deeper and support organizations, please do. There are organizations like the Working Family Programs. And if you want to dive deeper and support orgs like the Working Family Party, as well as Justice Democrats, Sunrise Movements, and other progressive organizations, there's also youth-led organizations that are doing the work in real time. And also follow leaders like Malcolm Kenyatta, like Nupol Kiazolu, like Zayana Bryant, like Chelsea Miller, like Tiffany Lofton, like Wisdom Cole. There's so many amazing young leaders who are doing the work in and outside of systems every single day.
And they're not the future of the Democratic Party. They're not the future of politics as a whole. They are the present. Yeah. And so we need to resource these folks and make sure that they have the tools to continue to champion this, because this is how we win in 2028. This is how we win in 2026. This is how we win for years to come.
How we win liberation.
Yeah, yes, we're trying to get free. So to do that, we need y'all to stay engaged, know your rights, organize, hold your representatives accountable, be informed, dispel disinformation. Until next time, keep pushing for a just future.